of the New Horizons spacecraft on January 1st, 2019 at Ultima Thule, which is a asteroid in the Kuiper Belt. I predicted that there would be a shutdown like the one that occurred at Pluto. It was a bold prediction based on my exponential expansion model for the universe. Under this model, probes should decelerate at about 10 to the minus 10th meters per second squared. The theory remains unchanged, but I am unfamiliar with the mechanics of such encounters. I can only guess that a measurement was made at Pluto that was not made at Ultima Thule. My best guess is that the ephemeris for Pluto was used, but obviously there is no such thing at Ultima Thule. It was my hope that a deceleration, which would cause a shutdown, would give my theory some attention. Nevertheless, I am posting the original prediction and its logic, and I am putting this prologue in before the original prediction. Possibly at some future time, the New Horizons spacecraft will evidence the measurement that I have predicted. The prediction follows. Hello, my name is Melon Dennis Earl, and it's February of 2018. I've developed a model of the universe over the past 10 or so years that I find amazingly accurate. It's the model's name is the Universal Exponential Expansion of Matter and Space. To understand the model takes a little work. You would be best served to see my YouTube videos, which I'm going to be uploading in the near future, which explain and instruct about the model. You could also go to my website, which needs revamping because I haven't visited it recently, and it's called exponentialcosmos.com. This video, however, that we're doing right now does not go into great detail. Instead, it simply predicts a dramatic event which will occur in December of 2018 to the New Horizons space probe, which is going out to the Kuiper Belt. If this event does occur, it should affect the core of all physics, so much so that it may be more important than the original mission of the New Horizons space probe. My theory predicts a safety shutdown at that location as the probe approaches Kuiper Belt object 2014 MU69. It will be caused by an HOC deceleration called for by the theory, which is exactly what happened with the Pioneer anomaly, if you want to look that up. The math in this short video is very simple, and it's purposefully simple. The correspondence principle applies, so therefore the math should be a good approximation. And according to my theory, values accepted as truths today are not necessarily correct, and you'd have to see the video's presentation on that. Please contact me if you'd like to discuss this on a personal basis. My email is exponentialearl@gmail.com. Here you see the journey of the New Horizons. Its primary mission was to explore the mysterious dwarf planet Pluto, which is barely visible from Earth. After passing Jupiter in 2007, it was put into hibernation to save energy, and it coasted for 8 years at 16.2 kilometers per second until it neared Pluto. When it was awakened, it shut down for unknown reasons, jeopardizing the entire mission. The probe is programmed to shut down if something is wrong and await further instructions from Earth, a distance of 4.5 light time hours. After the initial panic, the computer was rebooted and lost very little data. A computer glitch of 1,000 seconds was the cause of the shutdown, but the cause of the glitch remains unknown. I have found that no one has attempted to reconcile the Pluto glitch with an acceleration. If we try to find a constant acceleration for the New Horizons trip from Jupiter to Pluto, we can use simple math. The familiar d equals m1/2 at squared with these values result in an acceleration of -6 times 10 to the minus 10th meters per second squared. Please check my math. The result is incredibly close to HOC. Could it be coincidence? Along with the Pioneer anomaly, this constitutes extraordinary evidence for the deceleration caused by universal exponential expansion. It is now February of 2018, and the New Horizons spacecraft is in hibernation during the next segment of its trip. This next segment is the 3.5-year trip to Kuiper Belt Object 2014 MU69. The New Horizons craft, according to the law of universal exponential expansion that I am proposing, will continue to decelerate at HOC. This will cause a time discrepancy and associated distance discrepancy. That discrepancy should be approximately 300 seconds, representing a shortfall of approximately 4,800 kilometers. The values for the calculation of the predicted time discrepancy and shortfall are shown here. Once again, the math is simple. Solving for d in the equation d equals 1/2 at squared, where t is the time of flight of 3.5 years in seconds, and a is the cosmic acceleration, HOC, gives the distance shortfall of 4,800 kilometers and the time discrepancy of 300 seconds. It is anticipated that such a 300-second discrepancy will cause a computer shutdown and require a reboot of the program. If this occurs, I believe that it can only be interpreted as an extraordinary evidence and therefore, at a minimum, motivate scientists to take a good look at exponential expansion. Such results will be a first. Obviously, you need great speed and great distance, and a method by which you can measure the great distance in order to detect the cosmic expansion, HOC, and that's why it rarely appears to us. What follows is a short description of the derivation of HOC from Hubble's law. By the way, HO in this model is a constant. It's a constant now. It was a constant at all times. I know this varies from the standard model, but it is what it is, and it seems to work out perfectly for this model. A thorough understanding of the exponential expansion model should convince any logical person of its truth. As it turns out, relativity is an approximation of the correct situation. The reason why relativity doesn't work perfectly is because of the two postulates that it is based upon. And I will show you in the instructional videos that I'm going to upload why this is true. I don't think anyone has thought outside the box as far back as, say, the two postulates. I've also attached a short segment of a portion of my videos. I hope it shows some of the frustration I have experienced trying to reach people regarding this model that I have, and getting someone who understands what the situation is to think outside the box. A brief description of how Hubble's law is in reality an exponential expression is shown here. This is only the beginning of an amazing model of the entire universe. Such an exponential expansion cannot be described with non-exponential math. The theory is mathematical, exponential of course, and obviously must be very extensive. For a more in-depth look at the theory, I am preparing to upload a 5-part, 7-hour instructional video series on YouTube. You can go to my website, exponentialcosmos.com, although it needs to be revamped, or please contact me directly at exponentialearl@gmail.com. I welcome your questions or comments. Prior to doing the mathematics involved in deriving this theory, I'd like to bring up one subject that I feel is very important. The subject is a result of the expansion of the universe, which I had done very early in the derivation, and you'll see that the universe is expanding at HOC, and I use C in this calculation because C is really C0 e to the HOT. However, we're going to forget about that right now. I will show you how to do the math if you're not well versed in exponential mathematics. But the universe is expanding at that rate, and I will show you that what that means is if you send a peculiar object up, like a probe, like a New Horizons probe or a Pioneer probe, and you send it to deep space, the distances involved will cause HOC to be evidenced. And the basic equation for it is that from this aspect, from our aspect in a proper galaxy, we will evidence, we will see a positive velocity times HO. This is the acceleration of the object minus HOC, which is the expansion of the universe, acceleration for the expansion of the universe, I might add. Well, I'll show you this, but basically what it says is that's approximately equal to HOC minus HOC, because you see the velocity is very much less than C, and this is the basically relativistic assumption too. Any probe will develop that in this model. Now that means if I send a probe out from the Earth, like NASA does, and give it some time, we should evidence a very small positional problem. And this was first evidenced by, let me just say HOC. There were two probes sent out in the 60s, the Pioneers. The Pioneers were 10 and 11. Notice they're going in two different directions. Did I put 11 there? 11. Okay. These two things went out and they were sent to deep space. They were spin stabilized also, which was an advantage that they had as opposed to recent things. You could measure spin stabilized because of the spin. You could measure the distance to these objects. And they noticed after about 10 years that this one had a negative acceleration about 8 times, it's 8 point something, times 10 to the minus 11th meters per second squared. Okay, why did that happen? They expected it to be here, but it was here. There was a discrepancy in the distance, and it was a blue shift, Doppler shift blue, meaning that it was closer than it should have been. They also got the exact same thing over here with Pioneer 11. This went on for quite a while. There was a big controversy over it. Was where the physics, did the physics have to be changed? Well, somebody came out with a paper that quelled the whole thing. It was kind of a big thing up until 2012 or something like that. This paper came out that possibly what was going on is if you had the probe moving in this direction, and you had a heat source here, it could hit the components and reflect here, and you would get possibly that very, very small deceleration in this. Well, before I found out that this was actually a thing, I started doing this project, and I came out with the fact that the universe is expanding at HOC, and that's approximately equal to 8 or 9 times 10 to the minus 11th. You can do the meters per second squared, depending upon what you get for HO, because HO is still kind of vague. But C is 3 times 10 to the 8th meters per second squared, and this is about 10 to the minus 18th, so it comes out to be about this number here. And the fact that that is what you got in two different cases, going two different ways, I found was just incredibly coincidental. And I tried to talk to people, send emails, and what I found was there was no interest whatsoever in my thoughts, and that's what I'm still going through. That's why I'm going through this video presentation. Now, what does that mean? Well, it didn't mean much, except I was going to try to prove that instead of this heat source causing this problem, instead I was going to say any probe in any direction is going to be not as far or slowing down. And I saw a probe was going up, and they kept making news about the New Horizons, which was about 2015 would pass Pluto, which is a significant distance. And consequently, I tried to contact people. I had one. Here's an email here. You can't see it, but anyway, this email says here. I guess the best thing is essentially any peculiarly moving object will have a universal deceleration of negative HOC in my model. And I was just saying,
what I would like to do is find out, first off, was it spin stabilized? Or could you figure the distance accurately? Secondly, could you do something about it if it weren't? And I got no response. I sent it to a lot of people too. So I got no response, and I came to find out through online investigation that it wasn't spin stabilized, and I said, oh, it's probably going to be a real problem convincing people. But then, right before it bypassed, I sent this one to people who were involved, and I said, any probe in any direction will experience an acceleration, and I gave some mathematics here of minus HOC, the Pioneer anomaly. In other words, I was telling them, basically, by my calculations, you'd have a repeat of the Pioneer anomaly, and it said, if you do not have time to consider the theory because of my frustration, I only ask that you remember this email when the Pioneer anomaly inexplicably repeats itself in the future. Well, I kind of dropped it because, once again, no response. Then the glitch happened, and the glitch was the New Horizons woke up from a hibernation period of about 8 years from, I think it's the orbit of Jupiter or something like that. Approximately 8 years, that's what I got offline. And that it shut down because of some problem that they panicked over, really panicked over, and they found out that it was a computer mistake and this I got just last week from Alan Stern, on a video on TV, Science Channel. Alan Stern says there was a 1,000 second problem, and they're probably looking for who screwed up the computer. Okay, 1,000 seconds. I saw that, and I had him initially said, maybe the glitch was caused by the New Horizons not being where it was supposed to be. And it turns out that they explained it much better when the glitch came up. They said, well, this thing was asleep, wakes up, says I'm supposed to be here. I look up and the telemetry says I'm not there, so I'm shutting down the main computer, let them figure it out, some 4 hours late time back to the Earth. Meanwhile, they're panicked because the time coming in, they're ready to take pics of Pluto, and nothing's matching, so they reprogrammed it, and they got rid of the 1,000 second problem. Well, when I saw this 1,000 seconds, I used a very familiar equation: 1/2 a t squared is equal to the distance. 1,000 seconds, this thing's moving about 16.2 kilometers per second, which is equal to 1.62 times 10 to the 4th meters per second, giving a distance of, let's see, I forget what it was, but anyway, I did the calculations, and it came out to be exactly, I shouldn't say exactly, but given this information, plugging it in here for t, 2d over a, a, the acceleration is 2d over t squared. That led to about 8 times 10 to the minus 10th meters per second squared negative. It's the Pioneer anomaly again. It's HOC. It happened again. This almost caused, this thing's worth like $1 billion. They had to reprogram it with time ticking so that they could get the pictures, and that's what they were after. So I try, here is my third letter to Alan Stern only. I'm going to send it to a lot of people though. And I'm going to say, I told you so, because I said, please remember this email, but I don't know that anybody's reading them. But anyway, I did the calculations. A 10 to the third seconds is equal to 1.6 times 10 to the seventh meters. 1,000 seconds. This is about 16 million miles, or million meters, I should say. And it's significant enough to make that thing shut down. Now, what does this mean? It means that it's quite possible that it's all a coincidence. But, you know, I'll eat a bug. It's not a coincidence. And I am going to make a prediction here, and that's why I'm doing this. I'm going to make a prediction here. They've decided on a new target, and I found this out the other day, too. The new target is in the Kuiper Belt, of course, because it's outside of Pluto. And it's called, the target is called MU. I'm doing this to show that there's going to be another glitch. I did the same calculation here. And they expect it to pass by January 1 of 2019, conveniently. And the glitch was fixed, according to this, is about July the, I say it's 15. I'm not sure what the exact dates are. I did the calculation here, and what it comes out to be, using AT squared again, a very simple calculation, we're assuming that it's a constant deceleration. This is not necessarily true, but it's good. It's good enough and is believable to people who are standard model fans. The new glitch will be 300 seconds. And if you want to know the distance, all you just do is just multiply 300 times 16, or 1.62 times 10 to the fourth meters per second. Is that enough to have it shut down again? I hope so. So that they can fix it and they'll believe this. This is true.
Previous video was made after I found out that there was a 1,000-second glitch that caused the New Horizons spacecraft to shut down. I've made somewhat of an interesting prediction here that this is going to happen again when it gets to the Kuiper Belt, but there will be a 300 seconds glitch that occurs there. This is all, of course, a very gross estimate because I don't have the exact data. But what I would say is that if it does happen somewhere around 300 seconds and there's a shutdown, or there's some reason why it doesn't shut down, how many times does something have to happen in order to get some credence within the scientific community? The two pioneers, the first segment of this trip and this segment is going to make 4 predictions, and who knows how many other little coincidences have occurred. Proponents of the standard model are invited to come out with solutions to the problem if it happens. The only thing is, it's like fitting a round peg in a square hole. They're not going to be able to do it. Now, in my instructional video, I start very simply, and I can just imagine hearing some people saying, what does this have to do with relativity? Well, you have to walk before you run, and relativity is eventually, you can see the connection. Remember, I'm predicting this glitch that's going to happen during the holiday season between Christmas and New Year's 2018, 2019. Keep your eyes to the skies.